Welcome to Tomorrow.Africa, the podcast that explores the possibilities and the potential of Web3 in the African continent. We believe that the future of Africa is bright and that emerging technologies such as blockchain can accelerate its development. We interview people who contribute to this breakthrough in Africa and around the world and who hold a positive vision for the future. My name is Yassi Lokman and I'll be your host for this podcast. In today's episode, it's a pleasure for me to interview Ahmed Yousif. Ahmed is an entrepreneur, consultant, and advisor with expertise in emerging technologies. His influence spans across the USA, Africa, and the Middle East, where he has provided strategic counsel to governments and actively contributed to transformative projects. In this episode, we delve into Ahmed's unique insights on the current landscape of blockchain adoption in Africa. From his perspective, we unravel the intricacies of the most promising use cases, shedding light on the potential impact of blockchain on the continent's socio-economic fabric. We also discuss the current limitations for its large-scale adoption and the possible scenarios of how the future of blockchain in Africa can unfold in the upcoming years. Ahmed, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, digital transformation is playing a key role in the development strategy of many countries in Africa and the Middle East. You have been involved in several initiatives in the Middle East in Africa on projects related to emerging technologies like blockchain. Could you share the highlights of the journey that brought you to your current position?
Sure. Thank you for having me in your show. And I like the name, by the way, Africa Tomorrow. So my journey is actually quite long. That started with in the IT industry and working for the government and e-services, and so having that background on the traditional technology enabled me to become a visionary when it comes to providing services and providing the right advice to the decision makers and leaders in the government side, and that created a little bit of imagination in how technology could actually benefiting people from a policymaker perspective. So I have been working in the government for over 2 decades now, since I graduated. And then I moved into became an entrepreneur myself. So the digital transformation journey took me from an IT management into the emerging technologies and into the becoming a strategist and putting a complete strategy in the digital transformation.
Interesting. And with which governments have you been working so far?
I was born in Sudan and I grew up in the US and went to school there. And when I graduated, I worked for the local government. And I had several projects with the federal government, like the National Science Foundation and other organization in the US. And then I was, invited to join the Middle Eastern government initiative in digital transformation, and specifically in Saudi Arabia. They have a vision to transform a lot of services and entities that using traditional work. So between the two governments, the U.S. government and the Saudi government, I have learned quite a lot in the different style of governing and the different style of ambition and how to make the changes necessary in the re-engineering these e-services for the government and building services based on a modern and emergent technologies. So the Saudi government is, I helped with building a lot of services and using a lot of knowledge and background in the strategies to help re-engineer some of the services that is provided.
And what is your experience in everything related to blockchain technology specifically?
So, and that's also related to what I have been doing. So, the digital transformation journey took me into quite a lot of experience and challenges that looking for the right solution uh, for the right problem. And so it became a necessary for me to study all the technologies and advise and give the right advice in which technology should be used for which service and which technology is actually solving the problems that they have. So, in the data side, actually, I was able to, come across a lot of technologies, but I found that the use of data is the fuel and the root of every one of them that if you want to enable the right the right technology for the right service or for the right uh, you know uh, the right advice and the strategy, you always find that data is the foundation of that. So I was, after a lot of research and study, I came up with my own definition actually of digital transformation, and I shared it with a lot of experts in the industry. That in digital transformation we use technology, specifically the emerging technology, to generate data, and we use data to create value for our customer and the service that we're providing. So digital transformation is all about customer experience. And that's what led me to establish my own entrepreneur in the data area. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Blackstone Data Solutions, which is the providing solutions for government that how they can utilize the data that they already have on producing and building a good template for the future use of data.
Interesting. So the way you got introduced to blockchain, was it specifically through this perspective on how data is being used?
The blockchain journey is when I start searching for what solution is good for the government, and exploring the blockchain solution through a startup in Dubai. They came to our office and they did a POC with us, and I was the leader for that. That's in 2000. So when we started talking about the problems we have in certain use of our current permit issue, the integrity and the quality and the trust and the time it take and everything we have, and then around that we came with the answer. Okay, blockchain could be the solution. So this is led me to go research deeper on the field and the space and go study more and having my own indication on this on the blockchain. And then we went further to writing and publishing some papers on the blockchain, and then that's when I start taking it to the next level and start seeing the potential of blockchain and what blockchain could do for a lot of challenges that we have in the industry today, not just from technology perspective, but also from business perspective. So I start talking to people, joining groups and conferences, and of course introduced by a lot of leaders in the industry today that they have come, and then we started our own journey in the blockchain cycle where when we made blockchain conference. So it's a quite a mix of a lot of things happen at the same time. When we needed the blockchain, I think the to us all the challenges that we have, we couldn't find any better solution than the blockchain, and that's how I joined it.
And what is the state of the adoption of blockchain technology in the Middle East? In this podcast, we've been particularly covering the adoption in African countries, and we didn't cover necessarily countries in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and so on. It seems like Dubai, for instance, is aiming to play a major role throughout the world in the adoption of blockchain and Web3 in general by becoming a hub. What is your opinion on that, and how is it also? What is the state of the adoption of blockchain in countries like Saudi Arabia?
Well, the first part, I think that is Dubai is becoming the capital of the blockchain, and they're trying to fight so hard to compete with other countries and bringing a regulation. And a lot of countries, they have challenges because the decision makers, they don't want to make decisions in the area of blockchain in general because of the the gray areas of just cryptocurrency, and they don't understand the whole concept. That's why one of our biggest role is to bring education and awareness in how blockchain is a lot more comprehensive, and it's a complete solution that could bring a lot of solutions. So the financial layer and the cryptocurrency layer is just one aspect of that, but it did bring attention to the whole space, but it's not the only thing that we can do on the space. The second thing is that the challenge in Middle East in general is similar to what's happening in Africa. So the only difference is that there is, I guess, more financial resources and ambitions that they can take forward. But there's a lot of things that happening in Africa that need blockchain. Is the transparency, the challenge with the bureaucracy, the age of the government services that they've been provided to the citizens, and the financial inclusion and all other aspects of the challenges that people have that need blockchain for solution. So Middle Eastern governments, in the African side or the continents in general, there's no initiatives that is strong in the past 5 or 6 years until they have seen, Dubai and other countries are moving forward. And I was delighted and humbled that I was invited to speak in several African countries about the blockchain, and I talked to leaders there from both sides, the public and the private sectors, and how we can move it forward. So in general, the initiatives, the desires is there. There is a little bit of hesitations and a little bit of lack of, if you can say, understanding, and lack of uh, experiments. Nobody wants to take the experiment, especially from the government office. I'm very excited to have seen a lot of startups coming now and starting from Africa, and I think this is what's going to lead uh, the momentum in the continent and in our discovery and journey. We're gonna see a lot of good use cases coming out of Africa because Africa holding a lot of good cards right now that we can discuss as a vision maybe later by the end of this episode.
Yeah, and it seems like Saudi Arabia is also aiming to play a leadership role in the adoption of emerging technologies in general. At least from my side, I didn't hear often about Saudi Arabia when talking about the adoption of blockchain and Web3 and so on. From your perspective, is it something that the government in Saudi Arabia is also working on?
There is a lot of initiatives that, as we speak right now, we are assembling team, creating a lot of. These are not POCs. We already passed the POCs phases. We are working in actual projects in several industries. Like for example, the real estate industry. There's an initiative going on that is going to be announced very soon in how blockchain applications could affect the way that people understand, how to invest in real estate, and also the aviation industry. That's another thing that is very this eager in how to see how the blockchain could change, reducing the challenges that they have with data and time and accuracy and money and all this stuff, and bringing trust between the industry leaders and the private sector in the aviation industry. So that's another project. We have done a few projects in the past, but they were in a small scale, like the Hajj project in payments, how to incorporate some of the payments, cross-border payment settlement coming from other country that people wanted to come into Saudi to use their currency. Or this is another thing that the blockchain could be handy to explore. So yes, it's not announced, is not publicized, but there's a lot of projects that they're working on. It's been going on in the last several years on the blockchain. Plus, the idea of education also, it's taking off speed in picking up speed in Saudi Arabia. That there is 2 years ago, or last year, we signed an initiative that we invited several of blockchain technology leaders to bringing their education and awareness into educating the young people and the people who are interested in building their startup in the space of blockchain. So, yes, there is a lot going on in the land in Saudi Arabia. But of course, still, there's a lot of interest in inside me for the motherland, if that's the right term. Africa is interesting place that people would like to see, and there's a lot of things could be done in Africa, and has a lot of potential compared to many other countries.
Why do you think the African continent would be a fertile environment for the adoption of blockchain technology for different use cases?
Yes. So let me tell you this. Start by this story. That in 2021, I took a group of delegates into Sudan, and we start the first blockchain conference in Sudan. That we spoke to government leaders, to entrepreneurs in the country, and the educators and students, and there's a huge momentum. And we were in the car driving, and then there is one of the people there. One of my friends is a CEO of a company that he said to me that there's a use case. Actually, there's a little bit of trash was in the street and stuff. He said there is a use case for the recycling, that it could be introduced by encouraging the public to clean up and getting a reward system from that. And that was like just one of the small things that we come out from that conversation. What I'm going uh, with this story is that uh, the African continent has a lot of good use cases that backed by resources and challenge that in the ground that people need to recognize. Uh, so you have the economical challenge. For example, there's a lot of countries that they have, challenge with the balancing their budgets and having, while they have a lot of resources in the country. The reason being that they are now utilizing technology the right way for transparency of the transaction, reducing of the fraud, and fostering the economical trust. And also, there is the currency volatility in some of these countries. The cryptocurrency could be an ultimate solution. Education. Education is a lot. They have a lot of the continent. This is the youngest continent in the world, that they have like over 75% of young people that they are eager to learn, eager to start their businesses and things like that. And education is the key. So there is a lot of initiatives on the blockchain. Like, for example, one of my friend that is working in a platform right now is called Learn to Earn. That the more you spend time in the platform and taking exams and getting certifications, the more coins you get in your wallet, and at the end that you're gonna have a education, and you have economical power that you can use it. And also the healthcare system. We just witnessed the challenge with the COVID-19. COVID-19 brought a lot of uh, highlights to what's happening in the continents when it comes to the aspect of vaccination, the aspect of like vaccination records and cross-border challenges when you're traveling from one country to another, how to share this information and so on. So healthcare system in Africa need a lot of challenge. The financial inclusion, like 60% or even more than that in Africa, they have no bank account or any form of ID that they can, use banking system or traditional banking system. But everybody has a phone, has a smartphone, and they want to use that. So from that DeFi platform perspective, using the blockchain to enable such need, I think it will bring a lot of help. And then also the children, you have a lot of challenges with children. There's a lot of people in some villages around Africa that, they don't even have ID for their kids until they go to school. So when they decide they want to school, that's when they start having ID or certificates. So there's a lot of challenges with the records. But having that in the blockchain, having blockchain solution in that regard, it will bring a lot of help. Agriculture, that's another thing that Africa is very wealthy of land, and using blockchain can to trace the journey of agriculture product, from the farm to the table, ensuring the safety of the food, ensuring the freshness of the food, and having smart contract that bringing the money seamlessly without any challenges in the supply chain. And another thing is actually the supply chain also. Blockchain can, provide the transparency, with a tamper-proof record of the product journey, and ensuring the authenticity and reducing the product challenge that might happen in the journey of the supply chain. And then coming to the resources like the commodities and the minerals. How is the continent that with the most wealth is the one that having the most trouble economically? That doesn't make a lot of sense from economical perspective. The only challenge that it could be there is that there's no visibility of how much commodity these countries have. Now we're talking about BRICS. There's a lot of people talking about BRICS. It's going to establish a decentralized currency that's based on a blockchain. And each country that they want to join the BRICS, they have to show how much minerals and how much commodities they have, whether it's oil or whether it's gold or whatever. So all of this is these cards are actually, it's in Africa. The country with most resources, has a lot of young minds there, has a lot of potentials. So I think if we approach the problems the right way and the technology the right way, I think we're going to have an amazing momentum in the accelerating of the adoptions of the blockchain in Africa.
And how conscious do you think African countries are of the potential that such technologies can have for different use cases and in different sectors? Of course, we cannot generalize. It would depend from one country to the other in Africa. But for the countries with whom you've been involved so far, do you think that the governments are aware of the potential that these technologies could have?
Well, there is awareness that is taking shape right now in Africa, and we are glad that's happened. There's a lot of initiatives now it's happening because they recognize there is something that blockchain could do to Africa that no other technology or a not even the compared to technology, compared to general purpose technologies, the revolutions that happened throughout the human history, from the machine age to electric age to the internet age, the blockchain could do this. The decentralized nature of the blockchain is the key solution to Africa's problem. Why? Because that you have a challenge with the centralized nature of other technologies, that everything is called home back to Europe or called back home to the US, whether the internet itself, whether the the regular services that we use in a daily basis, email, Amazon, uh, Apple devices, or whatever. But the blockchain, the nature of its peer-to-peer network, that somebody in remote village in Africa could do a service and get paid on the spot without having challenge of going through a AWS or Google server or whatever. Uh, so what does that mean? It means is that governments locally, they need to recognize this potential, use it for the good of the services of the people to provide the services that need it. And one thing actually, in most cases, in a lot of cases, the blockchain is just taking off by itself in a lot of areas that it's people with a lot of knowledge and a lot of resources, like the technological background, they are starting recognizing that and bringing the blockchain into their neighborhoods for small work that is in general, if the government utilize these services, putting their ID, the identity management, the education verification records, the vaccination records, and things like that. So we need awareness. We talked to a couple of leaders that why, when we are talking about Africa, we are not talking in Africa about Africa. We are usually go to Dubai for a conference talking about Africa, or go to Europe talking about Africa. Why can't we start these kind of trade shows and mini conferences, education, and bringing the interest of the people. So it could be an organic solution that coming from naturally from what is the country or the continent need. So yes, governments are starting to understand and starting to getting involved, but it's not fast enough. They need a lot more speed to keep up this momentum going, because this could be actually a game changer for the entire continent.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you've been saying, also one of the characteristics of blockchain is that it is decentralized. So by definition, you don't need a centralized entity or the approval of a centralized entity for it to work and to enable its adoption. So there are actually a lot of people that would argue that by definition, the government shouldn't be there as an enabler. And it's true that in a lot of African countries, for instance, cryptocurrencies are banned, but people still would use cryptocurrencies because there is a need for them, and it is permissionless. So anyone could buy bitcoins and transact with bitcoins or any other cryptocurrency. But my personal opinion is that for such technologies to be adopted at a larger scale, the government should approve it, or the government should encourage its adoption, because it is the government that will set the regulatory framework that would maybe educate people, also empower entrepreneurs that are building such solutions, and so on. So
absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely. Yes, and I actually you brought a very interesting point. I use this example. Most of this technology we see. Sorry to interrupt you, but most of this technology that we are excited in using it on a daily basis, whether it's Amazon or Google or Microsoft or whatever, they started in a garage. Somebody who is smart person, has a little bit of capabilities and resources, he sat down and built something together. Then Private sector took that to the next level and stopped producing. The government, their role is to regulate and make sure there's fair use, and that's it. But if the government, stood up from the beginning and saying no, this is banned, we can't use it, we can't use this technology. What's gonna happen to the adoption? Yes, there's a lot of under the table use cases gonna come out, and people will use it and illegally and all that stuff. But yes, to accelerate the adoptions, the government has to come and allow the sandbox to happen, allow the regulation friendly environment for this to flourish. And this is actually going to come back and bring the country a lot of resources and a lot of good economical outcome.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's also a dilemma that is happening, is that some people would say that the government wouldn't necessarily have an incentive to adopt such technologies, because that would remove power from such powers that they used to have. Would you agree with that, or do you see a possibility for governments to adopt blockchains while still having the authority that they would usually have?
See, absolutely. I think this is one of the misconceptions in the blockchain, that you are isolated somewhere that nobody can know what you're doing, and that's what actually made the government that are against anything that blockchain for a while, until they start recognizing there's a lot more potential for regulations, a lot more potential for a good use cases. So I don't agree with that. Understanding or misconception that people are completely isolated. Yes, there is a way. For example, let's take the ID. The government is the only entity that could produce ID. If the ID in the blockchain, then when you are going to open a bank account or going to apply for school, you don't need a proof of ID to apply for that university. Why? Because the government built this national database and put the identity on it, and then enable the citizens to just give their hash account to permission-based entities that they allow them to use this ID. And then on top of that, you build this like education records, for example. When you are applying for a job or applying for a graduate or applying for another level of the educational, like going from high school to college or something, you don't need to bring your documents or prove that you have completed, because it's already in your personal account. You just give the university a permission for it. So, and the next level from that, when you are having a health record in the system, what you're gonna because the government wants to know that you are being vaccinated, or when you're traveling from one country to another, that so you're putting that in the permission based system, that it's controlled by the citizen, but it's built by the government and producing a lot of data that could be useful for the government. So the idea is government cannot control anything on the blockchain, or it's based on trust, bringing trust to the system, and that trust based on the public. I could see, the government could see, and the person could see, and controlled by the person who owned that permission, to the person that wanted to see the permission, or to see to provide the service. So, and we have national there's national initiatives around the world that for government agencies who use the blockchain services, blockchain technology to provide their services, like Estonia, and then like Korea, and India in some cases, and even the US. There's a lot of states that use the blockchain. For example, in the airports, how to know who's coming to the KYC in general, coming to the airport, and reducing the amount of time that is going to take from you landing in JFK all the way to the taxi, how long time is going to take, and what services that we can put in the blockchain that to be transparent and everybody can see without challenges. Another thing, one of the biggest thing that the governments have is that they are operate in islands. Every government entity, they have the data, they have the solution they're providing, but they can't see out that outside that box. And when it comes to blockchain, when you provide all your services in that blockchain technology system or platform, you and other government entities could share the same amount of data and transaction, and everything is transparent. So simple answer is both from the government perspective and from the individual perspective. Blockchain is bringing more power to both sides and helping reduce the amount of time and bureaucracy and bringing transparency that we need for everything that we get and receive from in a daily basis, from education to health to financial systems.
Mm-hmm. So in that sense, blockchain could be seen as an infrastructure that has some specific characteristics that you've mentioned, like, for example, bringing more trust, the fact that it is transparent, and instead of having different centralized databases that are used by different entities, we could have a blockchain which could serve as an infrastructure and that could facilitate the exchange of data and do it in a more resilient way, because also the data could be stored in an immutable way. So it would bring more trust to the different interactions and services that are provided, right?
Correct. Yes, I agree with that. And of course, the main characteristic of the blockchain is the mutability and the trust and transparency, and all of this. This is what we need. This is what we need when we're dealing with each other. Because, for example, what make platforms like Amazon popular is the lack of trust. From technology perspective, that has a translation. What does it mean? It's a business platform. It's a business model that came out of lack of trust. Like, I want to buy something. I want to buy a phone, for example, from you, and you are selling the phone. So I have the money, you have the phone, but we don't know each other. We don't see each other. I don't know that you have the phone, and you don't know that I have the money, and we live across the world from each other. So Amazon came and created this platform and say, you know what, I'll be the mediator. I will take the money from this side and I'll take the phone from this side, and will provide a trust-based platform. And that's what the business is lacking in the past, because in the past, before the era of the internet, that when people transact in the materialistic way, like, I see your product, you see my money, and that's it. But now we're going into a digital era where things are completely invisible. You meet somebody across the world that in just couple meetings, you are a friend and doing business together. You find a product online and you want to purchase it. So this trust is created by these mediators, but these mediators challenge some of the fact of the trust itself. Like, sometimes that they take too much fees. Sometimes that they create a delays or fraction on the transaction themselves. So since we have reached this maturity, why can't we not transact in the public aspect? That's why, like, okay, this is a system that could provide to users and to everybody involved a visibility, a complete transparency, and immutability. It's secure, so there's no way you can lose any of your products or goods or services or the money. And it's decentralized. Like, I'm buying from you directly. There's nobody has to be involved in the middle. And so eliminating this factor of intermediary is the strong factor of this. So all of these features we just mentioned in this conversation are what we need, and they are available on the blockchain. We just need to utilize them.
Yeah. And also what's interesting is that it would consider everyone equally. Today, what we have, the services that you've been mentioning, in some cases, they wouldn't be available in some countries, or maybe just fact of being born or being located in Africa wouldn't give you access to some privileges, while blockchain is an international infrastructure that is based on the internet, and it doesn't matter from which country you come or how old you are. What matters is what you bring to the table and what value you bring. And yeah, that's also something that I found very, very exciting.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, in a general way, we hear more and more about this concept of Web3. So Web3 being the evolution of the web, Web2 being what some would call the Internet of Information. It's basically an internet that facilitates the exchange of information, but that wouldn't facilitate the exchange of value. And Web3 being this evolution of the web, where digital assets can have intrinsic value and can be transacted as easily as information, but still keep their intrinsic value.
Yes, and just to elaborate in that more, is that the internet model, the way it was built, based on information, based on advertisement. I'll sell you something free. I give you free Google account. I give you free YouTube. But I track, in return, I track your data and I go sell your data. So I have no say of my digital crumbs, if this is a good term to use. It's like I go here, I go here, I go here. So I leave digital crumbs, a little, things in the sites that I have visited. So this digital crumbs is actually money, because these sites collect this data and these sites collect this data, and so they collect the data about you, and very soon they know a lot more about you than yourself, actually. And then when they start producing this targeted ads or AI control advertisement, then you find yourself that is actually trapped in these services. So this is the model that the internet of of information, or the age of the information was built on. So the companies can make money from your data. But now we're going to a value model, a value enabled protocol, that I transfer to you protocol to value. I transfer to you currency, I transfer to you goods and services in this platform, in this technology, using the decentralized way. You and I just the only participants in this, because I'm sending and you're receiving, and that's it. So then, if the value is visible, and the thing that you are receiving, the whatever you're receiving, the goods you're receiving are visible to both sides, and we agree, it's controlled by a smart contract. Nobody has to be in the middle. So Web3 actually enabled this, from payment perspective, from transparency perspective, from the all the immutability and all the features of the blockchain on top. So I feel that we are just in the beginning. When people, because who's talking about blockchain? Either the people who are investing in cryptocurrencies, or the people who are studying or have interest on the subject. But when it goes mainstream, that's when actually the creation and the beauty and it's going to happen. Like, for example, when the internet, it was in the early stages of the internet, was just a protocol and people talking about it, and they don't know exactly what is could provide and bring to them until they have seen the internet in a browser. So when Netscape in 1992, I think, or three, or yeah, a little bit more than that, put together a browser that people can see the internet. They play with the internet. They can buy stuff on the internet. They can see news in the internet. They can watch games on. That's when the internet became a thing, and the booming has happened. The dot-com boom. So I think Web3 has that potential, bringing us to that early, taking the blockchain from its infancy into the teenage or adulthood, if that's the right term. So it will bring the awareness. It will become a mainstream, and everybody will use it. So the chances now for those who want to invest, the chances now for these governments who want to utilize the potential, and the chances now for Africa, because Africa has a big say of how things it might happen in the near future. We're talking about a lot of challenges that are happening in the world, specifically from resources perspective. Africa has the agriculture, it has commodities and things like that. So Web3 enabled Africa is the future for the world, because everybody's gonna be, using these commodities and these solutions and these services that are coming for Africa through a strong supply chain channel that come all the way from South Africa to Europe, from Nigeria to America, and from Sudan to Kenya, from Sudan to India, or around the world. This is never happened in the past, and it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. And I believe that Africa will actually play a leadership role in the adoption and evolution of Web3, as we've been saying, simply because the urge is actually bigger in terms of adoption of such technologies, because there is more needs. There's a lack of infrastructure, or the systems that exist could sometimes be inefficient. So there is a genuine need for such infrastructures, which wouldn't be the case in Western countries, for example, where they still have the luxury not to adopt such technologies. And also because the potential is greater. And I think that most people don't comprehend how much of a potential Web3 actually represents. Because when you talk about the Internet of Value, that would mean that people in Africa can stay in their country, can stay in their homeland, and still be able to transact internationally and bring value internationally. A lot of people actually might immigrate and go to other countries because they're looking for better opportunities. They're looking for better wages, because their location is actually a handicap, because they cannot have wages that would be at the level of their talent and so on. But imagining having an internet of value where no matter your location, you're able to be rewarded at the level of the value that you're able to bring, no matter how you bring what you bring. If you're maybe, I don't know, a developer or an artist, whatever, your location doesn't matter. What matters is the value that you're able to bring. And that's something that is very powerful.
I agree. It's what made most people immigrate, and hear a lot of challenges of young people trying to get out of Africa. Even those the smart ones that they want to start business, they moved out because of this. A lot of challenges in the entrepreneur spirit within the government and within the localities. Almost a lot of ideas die very early on, and the only idea that is flourish, that the one that get oxygen from outside. So I think enabling this decentralized nature of the blockchain and building, on top of that, a vision for what is Africa should look like with this Web3. I think it's important, and focusing in the young spirits, focusing on the entrepreneurial spirit. You don't have to have a job when you graduate. You can take your ideas. Every single child, every single person, they have good idea. You can take this idea and build it. Yes, not 100% of this idea is going to become something. But if you have more than, 5%, of these ideas became something. I think you're gonna have a sustainability. You're gonna have a self, motivated continent that where the young people have the spirit of, oh yeah, I don't have to have a government job when I graduate. I can just build on the idea that they have, like the movie Harnessing the Wind. That little child in Africa has an idea, but if that idea was, fed well and elaborated well, and get the proper resources, it will be a game changer for the continent, for the country, and eventually the world. So we're talking about, technology that is going to enable this. It's going to enable the bringing back. Actually, in fact, I was thinking about the blockchain once I was driving in a long road trip in America, and it's brought me to the natural development of human beings when they were like early on. They're transacting in peer to peer and decentralized. There's trust built, transparency. This is how our ancestors they used to transact, and in a way that is, you have goods and I need this service, or you have goods and I have money or a form of paying for these goods, and just between me and you. So from that perspective, it's so natural and organic that for people to be transacting that way. The only elements that missing is, how could I trust these goods or these services or this person that actually he claim he's this or that and he is actually delivering. That's the only missing part, and that's what the blockchain bring. And when we do that, adding those two together, we have a massive adoption. So, and Africa is waiting for this.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about blockchain and the adoption of blockchain, obviously there isn't one blockchain. There are different blockchains with different protocols, each one having different characteristics and different consensus mechanisms and so on. Yeah. Do you think that the fact of having that many solutions that exist would actually be an obstacle of the adoption of blockchain, especially for a government that is seeking to adopt blockchain at a larger scale? How would the government navigate this environment where there are different protocols with different characteristics, each one claiming to be the best? How do you think the government should navigate this problem?
It is a challenge. It is a challenge that, and it's confusing too, saying that, okay, I am the best blockchain. And actually happened to us once when we brought a company that working in the blockchain, that they wanted to use a certain blockchain, and the government say, like, somebody did a little due diligence and said, no, I don't want this blockchain to be used. Why? Because this blockchain is supported by a specific community or a specific group that I'm not aligned with. So you have that challenge. You have that idea of which blockchain is the right blockchain. Let's say what is the right blockchain for Africa? If this everybody from around the world are coming selling their blockchain and saying, no, use our blockchain, use our blockchain. So first, let's establish something that it's a technology. It's an open source technology in most cases that anyone can, with good amount of resources, could build on it. At the end, that they can come up with Africa's blockchain, for example. That's one thing. The second thing also is that it's based on what solution you're looking for. Are you looking to build a coin, or are you looking to build a digital wallet, or are you looking to build a smart contract? It's based on every blockchain. They have their good use cases. The challenge is, well, it's not a challenge, but this is a nature of technology booming. In the beginning, there's a lot of .coms and a lot of internet experiments, but there's only one internet that got adopted and went and took off. Just like we used to hear intranet, there's an intranet everywhere. But when there's a maturity, as I mentioned earlier, we are still in the early stage of the adoptions. So when we get to the next chapter of the adoptions and became a mainstream, I think there is going to be a one public blockchain or couple or a few that going to be the one that everybody will look after or look for, because it has a lot of features that everybody's looking for. For example, the cost, or I'm paying more, I'm paying less, but I'm getting more, for free. So there's a lot of things that you will look into adoption. Yes, there is investors. There's some people who would like to see the Bitcoin to the moon. I mean, it's there. That's a reality. And then there's people who cheer for Ethereum, for example. So each one of these blockchain, it has good features, and it has the flagship service or platform or product. And at the end, for the public to adapt, for the government to say, yes, this is the right for us, is based on what solution you're trying to bring on at this stage. In the future, hopefully, all of this noise will disappear. We'll have a technology that is good for everyone and holding its promises, and that is bringing the transparency and the decentralization nature, and everybody can use. Because at the end, if the only uh, good thing about could come out of these multiple platforms, if they unified, I can transact between all the chains without challenges if they unify. But if not, then one blockchain is going to be the underlying technology and the underlying infrastructure. And then we can enable a way that we can build on top. Of course, we still have the debate between the proof of stake and proof of work, and which one is going to be good for the environment, and is this argument is valid, and things like that, and if this is going to limit the adoptions of the blockchain or not. All of this are things that to look for, but I don't see a complete full scale adoptions happening if there is a multiple blockchain that they are, each one is challenging the others. I think for the governments and the government entity, they needed to evaluate a lot of things based on the services that they want to provide, and they can come up with their own version of the blockchain for now, enable it permission based until they come to understanding that using public blockchain will provide a lot of features that it could be useful. Just like what happened in the early stages of the internet, every entity or departments, they have their own intranet, and that was like the thing back then, but very quickly disappeared because there's a lot of features that will there will be it's an obstacle to use intranet for just the internet, until they decided, yeah, this is a good. And now there's like VPN, and then there's other things that it could be enabled for security reasons while using the public side of the internet. I think the blockchain is going to go through the same phases and even faster than the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also an evolving technology. It's just crazy to see how much it evolved in the last 5 years, and the new consensus mechanisms that appeared and that allowed it to be more scalable, which certainly wasn't the case before. And now being able to enable different use cases that it would have been hard to facilitate in the past. So it will certainly evolve in the future. And I've been saying, I think one of the major problems that we currently have is interoperability. It seems like some blockchains are now able to increasingly solve the problem of scalability, making the cost of transactions lower and lower. But there is still this problem of interoperability. When you build your solution within one blockchain, you generally stay locked within this blockchain. You're not able to transact with other blockchains. And if so, you would still need an intermediary that you would need to trust that would do this transaction. And so I think this is one of the problems or one of the evolutions that we'll certainly see in the future years.
Definitely.
Ahmed, what is your vision of the future of the African continent? How do you think the future of or Africa could look like in the future if emergent technologies like blockchain are leveraged fully, adopted by both the governments and the populations?
Oh, this is beautiful questions, and it's very dear to my heart to feel that I have a vision that somebody could translate into reality if I'm not able to. So I envision that Africa uh, leveraging the blockchain to its full potential to answer all of the challenges that we talked about in this episode, addressing the unique challenges that, whether from global perspective or from the local perspective, like agriculture, finance, healthcare, education, and many, many challenges that the African people have right now. And also bringing an African use cases that is actually coming from the the need of the people there. Is not something, it's kind of like a solution looking for a problem. No, it's a problem that coming looking for a solution. It's an African problem, African use case that could solve their local challenges. And also a united blockchain that coming from Africa or used by most African, that on top of it there's a stable coin backed by a commodity that coming from Africa. That's very important because when we look, for example, to European Union using the euros across the board, and that's not only provided a economical power, but also provided opportunities, business opportunities for the generations that coming. So the unity of Africa, when you take these borders out between these countries in Africa, you come up with a similarities. Most countries have young people. Most countries have a lot of commodities and a lot of challenges. So studying the commodities that each country has and putting in a decentralized stable coin that could come up from this continent to one, the African coin that will be used across the board. And it could be used globally when somebody coming from outside that wanted to buy some of the currency, the local commodities or good or anything that Africa producing. So having this, I think this will uh, be a long shot, but it's necessary. Of course, all of this will be enabled by Web3, that a person from one side of the continent could sell something to a person in the one side of the continent was using Web3, using blockchain, decentralized currency, and decentralized services that are used across the board. No challenges with fees, no challenges with cross-border settlement, and strong supply chain channel that powered by blockchain. This is the vision I have. This what I could see the technology changing the way we think about Africa, the way we look at Africa, the way we view Africa. It will be changed forever if things like this could happen. Not all of it, even just one layer of it, having just a unified blockchain. And then having a a serious talk in Africa, bringing the African smart spirits of the entrepreneurship and put them in a one annual conference that could everybody come and presenting their ideas, presenting their for this technology. I think it will be an amazing thing to see in the future as well.
And when you see the different initiatives that are currently being launched in different African countries, do you see that it is going to this direction and at the right pace?
Unfortunately, no. I see there is individual efforts that is not backed by an African spirit or African resources, or as I said earlier, the oxygen always come from outside for this the idea to breathe and to grow and that's why at the end the person who have that idea will take his idea, he'll take his startup and leave, or person sitting there in Africa bringing ideas from outside, which is fine and organic and natural. When things like this happen, no problem. But when you see every idea is going that way, I think that is an eye opener. How can we innovate locally and think globally? How can we bring these use cases from what it needs locally and fuel it by the international resources, whether it's expertise or money or whatever. But in general, bringing it from outside, I think it missed a lot of point because for the first time, as we mentioned in this episode, we don't need centralized entity to tell us or to approve what we're doing or approve the idea whether it's good or not. Let it be going and growing from the natural mix of the the need. So the use case coming from locality, you see how is it going. If it succeed, then let the world know about it. What our role should be is to introduce the features, the tool, and the intersections with or verticals with other industries or other part of the ecosystem, and just let watch it grow and succeed. So in general, yeah, it was simple. Yes, there is challenges in that, but if we let it, take its time and the use cases be natural and give it a chance to stage time to experiment and present, I think we'll come up with the future that we're looking for.
So is it solely a matter of time, or do you think that there are still things missing for such a vision to happen? I mean, the infrastructure is there, the talents that would enable it and make it happen are also there. The need for it is also there, but it seems that things are not going at the pace or the speed that they should be going at.
Well, I think it's time, but also a time well spent thinking about it.
And also
but
maybe education as well, so people are not aware enough of the potential of such technologies. I mean, when we talk to people in specific spheres related to tech and Web3 and so on, of course, people would know that what the technology does, the potential it has, and so on. But when talking with day-to-day people, as soon as they hear about blockchain, they would immediately think about cryptocurrencies, which is undeniably one of the use cases of blockchain and a powerful one, but it's not the only one. And it goes beyond that. And it seems like part of it, as simple as it may sound, maybe one of the problem is simply education and awareness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in order for the blockchain to be adopted and adopted well, it has to enrich the local context of what is the solution is providing and how is it related to the nature and the need of people. And yes, there is a the aspects of whether you wanted this solution, and you well funded for this solution, like there's resources, you have money and things from local, or is it something that somebody outside is encouraging you to build, and then at the end the need and the result would be completely different? Because if you are like coming with, African spirit, and you have the potential, and you want to build something, how long is it going to take you to survive? You're going to be able to survive and hiring local and bringing the local context, and till it's strong enough to stand in its own. Education. We mentioned education in three levels: education to the government so they can make the right decisions, education in the business mindset that this is only the beginning, and don't be in a hurry, and things are not going to go your way in the beginning until there's a success. And then education to the local young minds so they can go grow up and bringing their own ideas to the table and be strong, boots in the ground to keep this success and the momentum and the to bring sustainability to the entire continent. So looking from a high level and umbrella perspective for the entire continent, I think we need to a lot of collaboration for people like yourself, people who are interested about the continent, and sit and talk and bringing these type of conference and conversation and giving opportunities for the people locally to present their ideas and take their ideas to the next level, educate them. And then after you educate them, get them involved in the building incubator centers or accelerators that will, let's say, like each country will have their own blockchain incubator or blockchain accelerator that will help, bringing the idea from the idea phase all the way to becoming a unicorn or something. Uh, so all of this is require vision and patience and time well spent on this challenge, because we are very comfortable in Europe or the US. When we go to Africa, there's challenges in the very basics things. So when we come and bring a Web3 solution, we need to be honest with ourselves. The opportunity is massive. The resources is so substantial to the level that we can bring everything locally, create a local content. But the challenge is we need to be patient. We need to spend time and educate and collaborate with other to we use the global arm from one side, but the local brains and ideas, so we can have a lot of people in very few weeks or months or years that they can stand in their own.
For the inspired listener in Africa that would like to launch a project that has an idea and that would like to leverage blockchain to accomplish this idea, what advice would you have for such a person? I mean, you're in a unique position where you've both worked with governments, but you're also an entrepreneur yourself, and you've been able to look at things also from the perspective and from the lens of an entrepreneur. Which advice would you give for young entrepreneurs in Africa that has a lot of motivation, not a lot of experience, but that aims high and would like to leverage the technology to solve problems locally?
Yes. So this is a very good question. I mean, it's a mix of things. First of all, that whoever has an idea, don't sit on it, don't wait on it. Idea is kind of like a butterfly that will come into your head. If you don't, catch it quickly, it will just go to the person next to you or go to the person. So it's need, a swift act or action. A second thing that is also important is to collaborate, reach out, talk to people, attend programs, and be part of a community momentum when you are building something, and build your whatever idea you have and present it to the world. Bring collaboration. Nobody make it alone in this space. Everybody need everybody. Everybody needs support, and everybody need balance and help and hand select. So reach out to people who have similar idea or similar vertical that you are working on, and in matter of few clicks or few communication outlet that you find yourself, you are actually talking to the experts on the field, and that they can provide the proper advice. And then also, if you don't have the resources, reach out for people to join you so you can build what you want to build. Not just because saying, okay, I have my idea, I'm just going to either build it myself or let it dry. Stay on focus and reach out, build community around your idea, and reach out and present your idea. And hopefully you will find the right person. That right person will take you to the next level.
Great. Ahmed, thank you very much for the insights you have shared. I really enjoyed this discussion. And looking forward to meeting you in person very soon. And let's stay in touch.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for your listener. This is an opportunity that I feel like I'm actually talking to people in the continent about my vision and ideas, and hopefully that we can see it happen one way or the other. And talk to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to visit our website, Tomorrow.Africa, and subscribe to our channels to be updated about the future episodes. We publish 2 episodes per month at the 1st and 15th of each month, so stay tuned for the next ones. And until then, stay curious, stay ambitious, and see you tomorrow.